language of the Italian nation?
Well, you've touched on some of, but not even all of, the many areas in which Frederick was interested, involved in, and influential in. To be specific to your last inquiry, he's considered to be the patron of what they call the Sicilian School of Poetry, which was actually going on in his royal court in the capital of Sicily, Palermo. Started around 1220 to his death in 1250. He patronized this school, which means he supported these scholars, with funds and and kept them going. This school saw the first use of a literary form, which they call in Italo or Italo-Romance language, in this case Sicilian. The poetry coming from the Sicilian school actually comes before or predates the what they call the Tuscan idiom, which was the type of the language that was spoken in Tuscany around Florence. But this came before that, by about 100 years, which means that the Tuscan school didn't start until the first part of the 14th century. This Sicilian school and the poetry that came from it was well known to the famous Italian writer Dante Alighieri, who was the most famous writer author in Italian literature, comparable to Shakespeare in England. Dante, as well as his peers, the other scholars and writers that lived at his time, and Dante was late 13th and early 14th century. This school had a significant influence on Dante and his contemporaries as to the literary form, which eventually became what we call modern Italian that's spoken today.
Okay. Now we're going to get into the early years of Frederick II's life. Again, you mentioned that he was born in a town called Jesse, which is near the modern city of Ancona.
Yes.
And he was also the son of Emperor Frederick of Henry the
Emperor Henry the Sixth.
Yeah. Could you just give us some more insight into the early life of Frederick II?
Yes, of course, I'd be glad to. As you indicated, Frederick was...
Well, it was unusual the way he was born. Could you just describe that situation?
Well, okay. Actually, there's even a picture of it here.
Yeah,
that was done from the time. Frederick's mother was Constance of Sicily, the heir of Sicily. At the time of Frederick's birth, I believe she was about 41 years old, which was considered quite old to have a child at that time, even now. But because of her advanced age to have a child, she felt that it was necessary to have the child be born in public. So they have contemporary pictures and accounts of how they set up, or she had set up, some kind of a tent in the middle of the town where she actually gave birth, and there were official witnesses seeing that the child that came from her body was, in fact, the child who was Frederick II. And the reason why this was done was to preclude any idea that this wasn't her child, the child of her body, and that it could be like something of somebody they just put in because she couldn't have children. So that's unusual.
His early years, what were they? His education, how was his education unique in terms of the influences that he had access to?
Well, Frederick had both German counselors as well as Sicilian counselors in people who were advising him and educating him. In his early years, he was exposed to the court life at Palermo, excuse me, where Arab, German, Latin, Byzantine, Norman, and Provençal, that's Southern French, and even Jewish influences mixed in his very early years. Then, after his parents died, he was educated in, excuse me, educated in Rome under the influence, under the guardianship of the Pope at the time, who became his legal guardian. So his later education was in Rome, and he was exposed to a lot of different influences, which he absorbed and flourished later on in his intellectual pursuits and undertakings.
Okay, could you give us some insight as to, as emperor, how he approached his position of authority?
Oh, okay. Well, I should begin this by saying that why he became emperor. You have to start at the beginning. Frederick II was a member of the German royal imperial family of Hohenstaufen. His grandfather was Frederick I, sometimes actually called Barbarossa or Redbeard, who was the first Holy Roman Emperor of his family. He was a very famous ruler. Frederick's son became emperor upon Frederick I, that Henry VI, who was the father of Frederick. Frederick had somewhat of a claim to the being emperor from his descent from his father and grandfather. However, the Holy Roman Emperor had to be actually elected or designated by individuals other than himself. So he had to be actually elected. So it wasn't a done thing. Actually, after his father, Henry VI, died, the German princes elected another German nobleman, Otto of Brunswick, as Holy Roman Emperor, and this was confirmed by the Pope at the time, Innocent III, who was Frederick's guardian, incidentally, in 1209. To make a long story short, or try to consolidate it, this Otto of Brunswick had to deal with a lot of problems. He got excommunicated eventually, he himself, by the Pope. He got reelected in 1212, and he got crowned that year, and again in 1215. He was the principal adversary, in a sense, of Frederick's early life, or the obstacle, let's say, he had to come across. This Otto, however, lost a big battle in France called the Battle of Louvain in 1214. His authority melted away, and he had to kind of go into exile, and where he died without influence in 1218. Because of this loss in power of this Otto Brunswick, Frederick had an opening, or a way to exploit this vacuum in power, and he took it.